Hello, welcome. I've got a new fast 50mm lens for your Leica M camera, and this might just be the game changer at an affordable price. If you know anything about Leica M mounts, you're limited to normally 0.7 meters on most lenses because of the 0.7 meter limit on the rangefinder. This new lens goes to 0.45 and it's got a soft stop at 0.7, so you can't mess up your focusing if you're using a rangefinder. Today we're looking at the new Thypoch Simera 50mm f1.4. Now this is actually the fourth lens in their lineup for M mount. They first came out with the 35 1.4, then the 28 1.4, both Simera lenses. Next came the Thypoch Eureka 50mm f2 collapsible, one of my favourites. And then brand new we now have the Simera 50 1.4. Now if you look at options for M mounts, you've also got things like the TT 50 1.4 and of course the legendary Leica Summilux 50 1.4. Now if you know your lenses, you've got the old Summilux spherical, which is this one, if we're talking about spherical lenses, not the pre-spherical, to try and keep it simple. You've got the spherical 1, as we'll call it, which focuses to 0.7, and then you've got the spherical 2, which focuses closer. The problem with brand new Leica M mount lenses, as you know, is they're going to be expensive. So this might be the sweet spot where it lets you focus close, the same as the version 2 Summilux, but doesn't break the bank. So with that, stay tuned. I'll share lots of sample photos from my recent trip to Budapest, and then stay with me and we'll have a conclusion as whether or not you may want to get this lens. Shout out to Thypoch for sending me this lens to test, and yeah, let's get into the video. Hey guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. So yes, let's head over to Budapest. Well, I was testing the Thypoch Simera 50 1.4 on my now M10p conversion. Was an M10, now it's an M10p. Check out that video if you missed it. First impressions, I'd say first impressions, it's a bit weighty. I was using it with the hood attached, as you see in these clips. And the first thing I would recommend is, if you are using this lens, is to use either a grip on your camera, like an additional grip, or of course the more common thumbs grip that goes on the hot shoe. With the thumbs grip, it makes it a bit more well balanced on a M camera, but you definitely notice the weight difference compared to the smaller collapsible Eureka lens. This lens is like my go-to lens currently on my Leica M film cameras, and I love it because of the small size and weight. Now the difference is, this is an f2 lens, this is a 1.4 lens. This only focuses to 0.9 meters. This focuses to 0.45 meters. So they're kind of two different tools for two different jobs. If you want a small walk around lens for bright conditions where you shoot at 5.6 anyway, get the Eureka. If you prefer to shoot in the dark, or you shoot at 1.4 all day, or you want one lens that does everything, you can take photos of your food or other people's cameras, then you'll prefer the Simera because of the close focus ability. It's more of a one lens does everything setup for an M system. Other than the noticeable weight increase being a faster lens. Stop, I need to explain myself. So when I'm talking about heavy lenses and small lenses, let me try and explain. So I'll split this pile of lenses into different categories. So these are my small lightweight lenses, which I normally prefer to use. Most of these lenses are around 150 grams, maybe some of them even less. You can see the small form factor fit really well on M cameras, Leica 3 cameras. So those are my normal lenses. Next is a normal lens for most people. This is around 250 grams and it's like a bigger lens for an M lens. Then you have kind of fatter, heavy M lenses, which could be like your 90 f2, 75 1.5. That's actually an M42 lens. And then you have your really big lenses, which are what you're probably used to if you shoot SL lenses and big fat autofocus lenses. So as you can see, small lenses around 150. Excuse my watches as my dividers. Medium-sized lenses around 250, which is what the lenses we're talking about today. Big lenses for an M system, you're going to be closer to maybe 400 or 500, such as a Noctilux, things like that. And then SL lenses are just silly heavy. As you can see from this L mount zoom lens, 851 grams, which yeah, it changes the whole setup. So when I keep saying the 51.4 is heavy, it really isn't. It's just heavier than my lightest lenses. Okay, back to it. It feels really nicely made. You've got third stop aperture clicks, and you've got a super smooth focus throw with focus tab going from 0.45 meters to infinity, and you have a soft stop at 0.7. I especially appreciate this if I'm shooting film at close focus distances. The lens is supplied with a rectangular lens hood with a cutout for your rangefinder, like a vented style hood on one side, and both a round cap and a rectangular cap, depending if you're using hood or no hood. Now, unlike the 28 and the 35, the lens is a little bit more recessed. It's quite a pretty looking lens actually, so I don't really think you need a hood, but I had it on just for the sake of having it on. I wasn't sure what the world was going to be doing. Okay, test photos. For this video I was in Budapest in Hungary, one of my favourite cities in Europe, and the reason I was there was one of my students who's UK based asked if I could teach him there plus a UK student. So he flew me plus Sophia out, and then I taught him for kind of 2 days and had a third day to myself where I met a local model that I know from previous trips. These photos I believe are raw from memory, shooting the lens wide open at 51.4. Here's Lawrence in action, say UK based, and then this is me meeting up with one of my more long-term model friends, because I've been shooting in Budapest for maybe 9 years I think from memory. This is Mimi. Follow me on Instagram if you want to track any of my models. If you've never been to Budapest, I highly recommend it. It's very photogenic. You often have blue sky days, and so it's great for my morning runs. I often run up to the highest point, which I think is Gellert Hill, and then run along the river. This is also one of my favourite spots. This is a free hot spring. I believe it's an outlet from a bath, and I always visit when I'm running. Okay, onto the technicals. So these are raw images and colours from the Simera 51.4. All straight out of camera, no editing. And yeah, I think the colours are very pleasing. Kind of what you see is what you get, not overly saturated. And yeah, I'd say accurate to what you're seeing. All of the photos are shot with my Leica M10P conversion, so basically an M10 sensor, same as the M10P sensor. And yeah, very happy with the colours. And then for these ones, I've added my presets, because if you've seen my videos before, normally I use my final images in black and white, so I have my camera set to black and white. Okay, what about the bokeh? So this is a strength of this lens. I think it's got a nice swirl to the bokeh, very round bokeh balls with no hard edges. Being a fast 51.4 and being able to focus at 0.45 meters, you can get really nice bokeh. Now, unlike a say 50 Summilux, because it's got 14 aperture blades, should I say, as you can see here, 14 rounded blades, you're going to get almost perfectly round bokeh balls at every f-stop, and then the more cat-eye at the edges, as you see from that clip. That gives a bit of a swirl effect, which I really like for portraits especially. Talking about rendering, I think it's got a very pleasing rendering, and if you get it right, you get a bit of 3D pop. If you zoom in on some of these photos, they seem to have a bit more, like the bike handlebars really seem to like jump out, and on this one also. So shooting it wide open in the right lighting, you can get really nice rendering from this lens. Vignetting, being a fast 50, there is heavy vignetting at 1.4, but it's pretty much gone by f4. No issues for me. I like vignetting anyway. Chromatic aberration, like many fast lenses, there is chromatic aberration if you zoom in, especially wide open. Lens sharpness, if you look closely, even wide open, there's a very shallow depth of field, but there is more than enough sharpness, whether it's raw or raw plus preset, as you can see from these examples. Here, focus on the eye, and here's a zoom in from a 1.4 maximum aperture photo, and you can see plenty of sharpness, especially once you process your image with however you process your images. Now for black and white, as you say, I shoot black and white. There is a Leica store in Budapest, as you saw from that photo. I believe it's the smallest Leica store, or second smallest in the world, so if you go to Budapest, check it out. More example pictures, and then this is some behind the scenes of me shooting with Mimi, just to give you an idea of how I'm creating the images. So you can see I've got the 51.4 Simera on my Leica M10P. Normally I use a 1.4 magnifier on the viewfinder, but because the M10's got the bigger viewfinder diameter, I forgot to bring the adapter, so my standard 1.4 magnifier from Light Lens Lab doesn't work without the little adapter ring that's supplied with it. So for that reason I had to shoot all images with the electronic viewfinder. I wouldn't normally do this because it makes the battery go flat much quicker than if you use rangefinder only and turn off your live view. I'll talk more about this in a follow-up video. As you can see, I'm using hand signals to direct the model through the glass because she can't hear me, but Mimi also doesn't speak English, so when I'm shooting overseas, a lot of my models don't speak English, so it's surprising what you can do just with kind of body language and hand signals and everything else. All these photos are just raw plus preset added, quick Lightroom edits, just so I could share them with you guys in this video. If you've not seen my ebook, if you want to learn more about model photography, I can put a link below and I'll put some deals up for Black Friday. This shares everything I've learned over the last 10 years for model photography to help you get started and then hopefully let you take photos similar to this and find models like Mimi when you're next traveling to a city or even in your own city. Great lens for portraits, no complaints at all. Okay, so what is the verdict? I think the Thypoch Simera 51.4 for Leica M mount offers great value for money, being a fast 50mm lens which is sharp enough wide open, gives you that nice bokeh with a bit of swirl, which I really appreciate. It's got a bit more character, good colours, and the main benefit for me is the close focus ability. If you're a 50mm guy or girl that just wants one lens for your M camera and just do everything. I love the look of the lens. I think it's even prettier than the 28 and 35 that came before it. It's got the same aperture controls as on the 28 and 35mm Simeras. It's a similar size to the TTR 51.4 and Summilux 51.4. And I think if you need 1.4, it's a great lens. If you want a smaller walk around lens, I'd still recommend the Thypoch 50 f2, but that's just my preference. I love small lenses. Being a Chinese lens, quick watch check. I put on my Chinese Seagull 1963, which is basically a Chinese lens with a Swiss movement, a Venus movement, if you know anything about watches. For any of you that ask in the comments what watch I'm wearing today. Chinese lenses made for Leica cameras offer you a great value proposition if you can't afford Leica lenses for your Leica camera. At least you can now shoot the same 50mm 1.4 focal length and now at 0.45 meters like the Summilux 2 without breaking the bank. Again, big thanks to Thypoch for sending me the lens. I'll put a link below if you want to get money off. I think they're doing a Black Friday deal thing, so yeah, check it out. You might be able to get some good deals. Thanks as always to my amazing patrons, and if you want to see reviews on the 28 Simera and the 35 Simera, check these videos next. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.